Hello, I'm Marlis Arnold, trade show marketing consultant and author of the book, Build a Better Trade Show Image. Welcome to the Trade Show Insights podcast with news, tips, and tools to expand your knowledge of exhibiting. Today, two guest experts share some tips for exhibiting at government shows, dealing with show labor, and some exhibit design trends to watch for the coming year. Today, we're joined on the Trade Show Insights podcast with two guests from Exhibit Edge, which is a full-service display house in the Washington, D.C. area. They focus on design and management so that marketing departments can concentrate on their brand identity, messaging, and lead generation. And Exhibit Edge has also been recognized in the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies, not once, but 3 times, 3 years in a row. Today we have Bev Gray, who has been in the exhibit industry for 20 years. She has a background in computers and administration, and she oversees the business development, account management, and overall vision of Exhibit Edge as the president and CEO. And her husband, Mike, who has been in the trade show industry for 34 years, and he started out working on show floors and has done I&D and was an operations manager for a large company for several years, and now serves as the Vice President of Sales and Operations for Exhibit Edge. So welcome, Bev and Mike. Thanks for being our guests today.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Hi. And Bev, I know you also won another award recently. Can you tell us real quick what that was?
Yes, just a couple weeks ago I won the Women's President's Education Organization Star Award. The WPEO provides certification for the D.C., Maryland, and Virginia area, which is the certification is a national certification through Women Business Enterprise National Council. So this year I won the award regional. Next year I'll be recognized on a national level at the Women in Business Enterprise National Council Summit and Salute Conference. And that was a goal of mine 2 years ago, so I was excited about that.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. You must be really excited.
Yes.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into some topics for today. Mike, I know you have some background, or quite a bit of background, working in government shows, obviously being in the D.C. area. Do you have some tips for exhibitors who perhaps haven't participated in a government show before? What are some of the things that they need to be aware of that are different than just a regular trade show?
The government will provide guidelines as to many different things on a trade show floor, or what you can and can't do. And it's just a little bit of caution needs to be followed for some of the rules of government trade shows. Things like giveaways. There's a dollar amount that you should not exceed for giveaways. Gratuities, things that you do that and maybe in a commercial environment that you shouldn't do on federal shows. And they're usually pretty spelled out in a show kit or in some of the information that you will get when you sign up for a government trade show. Other things, just maybe not be as flamboyant as you might be on a commercial trade show. Just keep yourself in line. Remember, the government is spending taxpayer dollars, and they're very mindful of that. And if you come across as very flamboyant, it can be a little unnerving sometimes.
As we all know, the government's perspective on trade shows and events over these last few years has not been particularly positive. So another good reason to be on your best behavior and not go overboard.
Right.
And good research onto the shows. One of the things I definitely recommend is, if you've never participated in a particular show before, is go as an attendee. Learn the show, see who's there, learn your competition, and you usually can find that out through exhibitor lists and all ahead of time. We have many clients, because we're in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C. area, that go to government trade shows, and it's almost like old home week every time we go because we're all going to the same shows together. It's a lot of times you can learn good information from your competition. Just saying hi. Sometimes you're competing on contracts, and then the next contract you're buddying up on them, and so it's good to learn who your neighbors are and who your competition is, and ask what shows you're going to, what shows are better, what shows are not. You'd be surprised at how everybody is willing to offer that information.
Yeah, and it's a very tight-knit group. All the exhibitors, they know each other so well.
Mm-hmm.
Very
well. Like you said, they all go to a lot of the same shows, so that only makes sense. And what you said about doing your research ahead of time, that's really good advice for any new show that an exhibitor is thinking about participating in. If it's possible to go the first time and check it out as an attendee, that's a great research tool.
Exactly.
Yeah. The one other big piece of advice that I can give is your location on a government trade show can be very important to you. Especially if it's a government-sponsored event where, let's say, DISA, D-I-S-A, or PEO, EIS, and these are different government agencies, have a location on the show floor. Try and be near them. Everybody in the government who's attending that show is definitely going to be visiting that booth, and it's very good to position yourself around where they are located. And a lot of times, because government is getting the space at a reduced cost or a less cost, they're usually not right up front. And so you may tend to not want to go to the back of the hall or in a different location as a matter of hoping to get more traffic, but you end up finding out that because the government booth is back there, all the traffic is heading back there to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a very good point, because a lot of people, like you said, they typically don't want to be very far back on the show floor. So that's kind of a reverse thinking from most exhibits. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some tips for installation and dismantling, or better known as I&D. As most anybody who's done any kind of exhibits over the years knows, there's a lot of very tricky waters sometimes with I&D and dealing with unions and labor and exhibitor-appointed contractors and all those kinds of things. So what are a couple of really quick tips you can share with us as far as, especially since you've been on the I&D side, what are some quick tips that would really help some exhibitors?
Well, one thing that we typically do not do, and that's because we are very specific on how we want to service our clients. So we have very specific installation and dismantle companies that we use throughout the country, and we generally do not use the general contractor for each of those shows. We have very key companies that we repeatedly use in specific cities because we've determined what companies work better in a specific city.
Yeah, and to add a little bit to that, the general contractor, when they are taking their labor call for a show, they've got three different specific areas that they're covering. One is the general decorations where you're putting up the pipe and drape and installing the carpets and things on the show floor. Mm-hmm. The other is the association. They're going to put their best guys in front of the association because the association is the one that picked them to manage and produce the total, the complete show. So usually the I&D labor that a general contractor is the leftover labor that they're going to put with exhibitors. So if you're getting your own exhibit labor, sometimes it's good to work with a independent display house, or as they call them, a non-official contractor, who is not part of, because they'll have their own hand-picked labor. Couple other items that you may want to consider is union jurisdictions. A general rule for union jurisdictions is the farther west and north that you go in the country, the unions are going to be a little stronger and they're going to have a little bit more cost to them. The farther east and the south you go, the unions are going to be less stronger and a little easier to work with. Now, having said that, it's going to be very, very distinct in which city you go to as to what is going to be harder to attain or do on your own in each city. I know in Chicago,
right,
internet and electrical is going to be very tough and carry a price tag. In New York, you're going to have 3 or 4 different setup guys, the expos, the carpenters, the decorators, and you're going, it only takes one person to do this. Why am I needing 3 people to do this? So you just got, each city is very different. So you really need to get a good knowledge of the cities to help you budget for trade shows all the time.
And also, in regards to using another company for the installation and dismantle, don't assume that using a different company is going to be more expensive. It typically is less expensive to use an outside contractor. Their prices are usually better than the general contractor that's in the show kit.
Well, and what are just a couple of quick tips as as an exhibitor is looking to use an outside contractor? What are some guidelines they should consider when they're choosing who they're going to use? I know you said you have select companies that you work with around the country, but if an exhibitor doesn't already have that kind of a network, how should they go about doing that research?
Well, if they don't have that network, it's really just a matter of experience. I mean, as you said, we have 20 years of company experience, and I have more than that, just traveling to trade shows for 30-plus years, and you just learn who's good in what city. So when you're busy setting up your own exhibit, just look around you and see who's got their act together, and start creating a list of these different I&D companies. And that's how Exhibit Edge has gotten much of our business, is just we're out on the show floor, we're taking care of our clients, we have good supervisor out there, we're always uniformed, we've trained them very well, and other people in the booth next to us see what's going on, and they go, wow, I wish I could have that, or I wish I had that kind of service. And that's where most of our business actually comes from, is just doing a good job. So I would tell anybody, just when you get out on a trade show, make a note. Who was good in that city? Who had their act together? That's how we have our labor network set up for our company of all the different contractors that we work with over the country, or actually we do it internationally as well.
Well, and that's another good reason, like you were saying earlier, about talking to some of the other exhibitors in a show. I mean, that's another good question you can ask some of your, fellow exhibitors, be they competitors or not, just, anybody who's exhibited in that show before, you can say, hey, who do you recommend using for show labor in that city?
That's an excellent point. Referrals are a great tool.
All right, well, before we wrap up, let's go ahead and talk just a little bit. What are you guys seeing for exhibit design trends coming up this year?
The biggest thing that I can tell you is fabrics. There is a lot, in the last couple, 3 years, fabrics have taken hold of the portable market, but in the last year or so now, they have really taken hold of the large advertising walls in a trade show. You can get dye sublimated fabrics that can be an entire side of your booth, 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet long in one, kind of like outdoor billboards. But these fabrics, you can fold them up, you can, they're so lightweight. It's all about a little bit of cost savings, transportation, drayage, and because of that, the industry has really embraced the use of fabrics.
And there's so many different kinds of fabrics out there now too. It's not just kind of like your standard flat fabric. I mean, there's so many different cool textures that you can work with too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen that trend a little bit before in stage sets and in backdrops, and there's some nice companies out there working that. But the portable and the pop-up manufacturers and now the extrusion manufacturers have all embraced ways to include fabrics into their exhibits. So we, Exhibit Edge, about 6 years ago, really made a transformation from just being a custom fabricator to embracing the modular and portable and what we call the hybrid exhibit, where we can take custom elements and mix them with these much more lightweight fabrics to create unique looks for clients. And I think that's a great trend. There's a lot of stuff in the graphic side that's really coming alive. Direct print is another example.
And what do you mean by direct print?
Well, graphics used to be a process where you would do a photograph and then you would mount it and then you would protect it with an over-laminate. Now they have a direct print process where you can print on, gosh, you name it. It could be directly to wood. It can be on PVC materials. And it's an image that just goes on the material or the substrate, and you do not need to protect it. You don't need to coat it. And so this single layer image that is sustainable on a show floor has brought the cost of graphics down considerably.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I've noticed that over the last couple of years for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep.
Any other big design trend that you're seeing this year?
Well, clients are seeing the need to cut back. They are seeing that, whether which side of the aisle you're on, whether that the government is saying we got to cut back. And so when you kind of take a look at government trade shows, you take a look at your budgets as an exhibitor, you really have to kind of keep up with the technology. You really have to see what's out there and talk to an independent display house. Talk to a company that follows the EDPA, which is Exhibit Designers and Producers Association, and follows the trends in the industry. So if I were to tell you an industry trend, I would say keep up with the industry trends. They are fast-moving. Things are changing every year. People are coming up with newer, lighter, easier, better ways, and it's all about your budgeting dollar.
Well, and like you said, the trend is to spend less, but now it's becoming easier to do that. I mean, right. You could still have a really impressive booth on a much smaller budget than you could just 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep. The other trend would be that companies are really mixing it up. They're really taking a look at shows, and they're really taking a look at their ROI. And they're coming up with 3 or 4 different exhibits that they take to a trade show. The portable, the tabletop, the 10 by 10, the smaller fabrics, the mid-range booth, the large booth. It's not just the mid and the large booths anymore. So you really just need to assess your ROI, see if that show is a good fit, and really pick a booth to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like you said, design something that mixes and matches based on the various sizes and the various needs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
So, well, any final thoughts, any suggestions or tips that you'd like to share before we wrap this up?
One thing that I'm thinking of is trade shows are here to stay. I mean, people love that one-on-one contact. Well, I mean, where else can you go to see all your competitors and, right next to each other? And people, even with all the social media and everything where people are connecting better, people who are purchasing things still want that face-to-face contact. And I believe trade shows are definitely here to stay. And I believe in some of the results I've seen of some industry-related surveys is clients or companies are still going to be going to trade shows more and more. So it's definitely something to keep in your back pocket.
And as your budgets may change, we see changes in the economy firsthand because from a marketing and sales of exhibiting companies, we see if budgets are being cut back or if they're being added. And so to follow those trends, to watch what your competitors are doing, and to really pick your shows and do the ROI and the homework is where it's going to be important, because it's not just being out there anymore. You've really got to make a name for yourself. You've really got to put your best foot forward, and that's where a display house like Exhibit Edge can help you. We just want to, you come up with the ideas, and we can put it out there for you.
Well, and it's like I always tell exhibitors, it's not just the logistics, it's all about being strategic, and that's the part that a lot of times gets lost in the shuffle. They're so busy covering all the details that they forget to have a real solid strategy. So,
right.
Yeah.
It's before the show, and after the show, a complete package. You're absolutely right.
Exactly. And Bev, to address your comment about trade shows aren't going away, that has been so amazingly proven this year by show after show after show announcing record-breaking attendance.
Right.
It's really exciting after the last few years we've come through to see that, people, now that budgets are coming back and they're being allowed to travel and go to shows, that, that show floor traffic is increasing, and it's demonstrating, like you said, that social media is not here to replace trade shows. It's going to supplement.
Right.
And there's still that importance of the face-to-face marketing. So, well, thank you both for being with us today, and that wraps up our topic on all different kinds of subjects today with Mike and Bev Gray from Exhibit Edge in the Washington, D.C. area. Thank you both for being our guests today.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for having us on.
Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues as long as it is shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the show notes. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Until next time, I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening.